the StockPulse Commodity Brief for Friday, November 8th. Today's brief brought to you by Commander Resources. Commander trades as CMD on the Toronto Venture Exchange. Commander, a successful Canadian prospect generator in business now for 30 years, has a large portfolio of drill-ready gold, copper, zinc, and nickel projects, and has accumulated a package of royalties, potential near-term cash flow. Two active joint ventures in place this year so far, Freeport, Macmorand, and Fiordland HPX. Commander trades in the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol CMD. In the news recently, Weber Minerals, that's VIPR, and the TSX Venture Exchange, is going to do Phase 2 drilling at their La Virginia gold-silver project in Sonora, Mexico. We caught up with the VPX Dale Brittliffe. We ran through a little of the history of the company and talking about the upcoming drill program.
Well, a little about the project for a start. La Virginia, we consider to be located in kind of a forgotten part of Sonora. It is on a belt in the Sierra Madre Mountains. It's in the eastern part of the state, and it was identified by Minefinders Corporation about 10 years ago when they undertook a regional exploration program northwest of their Dolores project. They identified this area as one of interest based on a helicopter survey, I believe. There was some alteration and some old mine dumps visible. They did a deal with the local claim holders there and commenced drilling in 2010. Shortly thereafter, in about 2011 or early 2012, Pan American Silver announced a takeover bid for Minefinders Corp, and that was primarily for the Dolores mine asset. At that time, Minefinders had released 50 drill holes worth of information to the public. But upon announcement of that takeover bid, all news went quiet. So the drilling there went on unabated. They ended up finishing 188 drill holes for about 52,000 meters worth of work. Yet a lot of this wasn't made public. It wasn't deemed to be material by Pan American Silver, and it kind of it disappeared from the radar. And that's one of the points that really interested us in the project. We came along about 2 years ago now, looking at the project. It was fractured. There were two groups of claim holders. We managed to do deals with both, and we've pulled this project back together again. And in 2018, late 2018, we commenced our first drilling phase. We did about 4,750 meters of drilling in 20 holes. Partly, we did some drilling to confirm some of the old work that was done by Minefinders Corp and Pan American Silver. And we also ranged northward along trend and started testing some of these other mineral targets in the project area. Our regional geochemical program went reasonably well. We identified a series of anomalies north of the old drilling area, and of those, the El Ruby prospect was the most interesting to us, and that's the one we drilled right at the end of the phase of our first phase of drilling in 2018. The best results we got from that one was 13.3 meters core length, averaging 3.16 grams per ton gold and 228 silver. So that was an exciting hit for us. The true width on that, as we hit it at quite an angle, the true width is about 6 meters, but it represents an interval that we think is very similar to the other areas that were drilled in the past. The project lies on a very elongate epithermal system. I'm thinking there's probably a few centers of mineralization along that elongate trend, of which we're working on about 10 kilometers worth of strike. And our surface geochemistry has identified an eastern trend that looks to be subparallel to the one we're working on now. And it's that area plus the El Ruby that we're quite excited about advancing here on from late 2019 and into 2020.
What's timing on drilling, Dale?
Well, as we know, we're getting right up close to the end of the year here, but we are pushing to be drilling as soon as possible. The drill camp itself was a little bit neglected over the last couple of months, and it needs some work, but we're looking at getting in there in the next week, getting the equipment in there in the next week. So we hope to be drilling mid-November, and results, certainly hoping for results before Christmas.
Appreciate that update from Dale Brittliffe, the VPX. Then caught up with Allan Berry from the Allan Berry Reports, and here was his breakdown on the Silver Viper news.
Yeah, Silver Viper, I picked that one up the other day because I think they've got a very good project. It's in Sonora State, Mexico, which is a very good state for mining, and it's in a region of Sonora where there had been past production. This particular project formerly belonged to Minefinders, and they had drilled a bunch of holes there, but when Minefinders got taken over by Pan American Silver, this became really just another exploration project in the portfolio of projects that Pan American Silver has. So it kind of got warehoused, if you will. And now these guys have gone in there, and what caught my attention was not just the grade, but that they're stepping out from the known area where there had been previous drilling. What they have is, it looks like an epithermal vein system, and the next step they need to do is to find the boiling zone of the epithermal vein system. Think of a boiling pot of water, and basically the stuff they found is the bubbles that sit on top of that water. The next thing they've got to do is they've got to find the actual boiling water. That's where things get really exciting. And so far, so good. They look like they have something in the drilling. They still have the boiling zone open, and they need to find that. It's a solid project. They recently got solid results. There's not too much stock out, and it has a reasonable valuation. So this is the one that folks should be keeping an eye on.
Allianza Minerals in the news recently with some solid drill intersects of 455 grams per ton of silver over a meter at the Haldane Silver property in the Yukon Territory. I ran through the highlights of the release with the CEO, Jason Weber. Here were his comments.
Yeah, we did our 2 holes targeting some high-grade mineralization at the Middlecoff zone that the old-timers were following up, dating back to the 1920s. The last round of work that was done there would have been some of the underground development in the 1960s, and they had some really nice intersections underground that they were chasing with the workings. One of those averaged 775 grams silver, and that was over about a almost 14 meter section, and it was a wind, sort of a down drop from the workings, and they were following the vein down. And that's where that sampling came from. So this first hole, hole 16, we were targeting that down dip and a long strike. We hit the Middlecoff zone, had some really nice intersections in there. We had the 455 grams over just over a meter. That's a great number for us. But what was really interesting there, just below the Ewing Fault, which overlies the Middlecoff zone, there's a bit of a different style of mineralization. There's a 35 centimeter interval there that ran 996 grams per ton gold, or silver, sorry. But surprisingly, it had 1.5 grams gold with it, which was not something we're used to seeing here. I know that at Keno and some of their deposits, they do can be variable. They can get gold mineralization with it. So we think probably there we're dealing with a different species of minerals. We saw the similar response in the next hole, hole 17, which targeted a little further down dip, where we're trying to figure out what the plunge of the high-grade mineralization might be. The first hole targeted more of a flatter plunge to the chute. The second hole was targeting more of a steep plunge, which we're thinking now probably isn't the dominant control. But regardless, we still just below the fault. We got higher gold. And some other trace element response with the silver mineralization. And then when we look downhole, once we get out of sort of what's classically the Middlecoff zone, we hit what we're calling a footwall vein, and or veins actually. We see a couple of them. So some interesting numbers there as well. And there was some drilling done back in 2010 that actually looks like they ended just into that zone. And that hole was just a few meters off section from the hole we did where that hole ended up. And And so it was interesting to get into that zone and start to see some of the numbers out of that stuff, which, we had 2 meters of 42 grams. The old timers did note on surface a vein that may correlate with this. We're still working on it, but I guess the picture for us now is we've got a nice wide structure there, or set of structures that are hosting high-grade mineralization, and now it's working along that, seeing where we can get thick intersections of that high-grade mineralization. And this is open along strike, both directions. There is some down dip potential as well. We don't have that figured out yet, so lots of room for us to build on here, and time for us to sit down and look at the data in detail and try to figure out what direction we go next.
Well, exciting times for Allianz, Jason. What's the next steps from here then?
Yeah, it is exciting. We have the advantage of having some of the old workings here. There's 3 levels of workings that targeted the Middlecoff zone, and so now, based on the good drill intersections we have, and good numbers wise, but also good, for the most part, recovery was good. There was a couple intersections where the recovery was not as good as we hoped, but it was generally 65-70% and above. Most of it was sort of in the 90s. So we've got some data to work with now that we can couple that with the detailed underground mapping that was done in the 60s, and start to put something together. So yeah, overwhelming. There's lots of data to work with there, and it's not. There are some complications. There's going to be some offsets in the veins. We're going to shuffle things around a little bit, and we're going to have to figure that out best we can with drilling and based on the old data. But it's a good problem to have, and we know we've got high grade mineralization here. It'll be fun to chase this out.
Appreciate that update from Jason Weber, CEO of Alianza Minerals. Then caught up with Allan from the Allan Reports, and he put a little color to the news as well.
Yeah, Alianza is a very interesting project for me because I know the guy that's run the company, Jason Weber, for several years, actually a couple decades, and he is a very sharp exploration guy. And that's one thing that I think is very important for investors to try to determine early is who's really running the company. Are they serious about exploration? Are they promotional type guys? Jason Weber is definitely a very good exploration guy and good at explaining the project. They recently had targeted some holes based on the high-grade underground sampling that they did, and they hit some very nice grades, as you mentioned earlier, up in the several hundred grams per ton kind of numbers. They're hitting these new veins. They could be blind. Blind veins are a good thing because it means that they didn't get all the way to surface, and that you've probably got the entire system sitting down there at depth. So it's wide open. They've got underground workings that they can work off of on 3 levels. Saves them a lot of money on drilling, where they can actually just go down there and see what it is instead of looking at 300 or 400 meters of drill core. And they don't have much stock out. So it's a really good one for investors to keep an eye on.
Advanced Gold in the news recently. Advanced trades as AAX on the Toronto Venture Exchange as they had a follow-up geophysical survey identifying a large 1,000 by 500 meter continuous chargeability anomaly. Got up with the CEO, Allan Laboucan, ran through the highlights of the news.
Yeah, Rob, we had some really good news out regarding our geophysical survey. This was a follow-up survey. We had originally done one covering about 1,000 meters of where we wanted to get geophysics, and because that looked so good, we went in and done a second phase. And now, if you look at the combination of the 2 phases of geophysical work, we have a 1,000 by 500 meter geophysical chargeability anomaly that was done through IP. And this anomaly sits right below a network of gold and silver mineralized veins. What we did, the reason we did the geophysics is we're trying to find the source of where those veins came from and the mineralization came from. And now it looks like we've got that, and we're in a great area to be looking for something like that, Rob, because 12 miles away from it is the San Nicolas mine that Teck owns. And it was found in a very similar fashion. They did an IP anomaly or a geophysical survey. They found a 500 meter by 500 meter chargeability anomaly. They drilled one hole into it, and that first hole was a discovery hole of 200 meters of massive sulfides. So we're kind of following in the footsteps of others in the area where we're in the midst of elephant country. So yeah, I'm very excited about this news, and even more important, I'm excited about the next phase, which is the drilling to test this anomaly.
Some nice drill results here from Fireweed Zinc. Fireweed trades as FWZ on the venture. They had solid zinc hit from surface at Boundary at the McMillan Pass project in Yukon. Got up with CEO Brandon Macdonald. Ran through the highlights of the news here and what the plan is moving forward.
We had 2 holes from Boundary Zone, and you know, we did the sorting on Boundary Zone last summer. We released those results, and the thing about Boundary when we picked it up was that there was no doubt extremely broad mineralization there, both in terms of depth and lateral scope, but it was always low grade, right? You know, little spotty bits of high grade, and so the question was, yeah, look, it looks really big. It even looked already like it had a massive metal endowment, and it looked low strip, but the question was, at 2.5% zinc, if that's your honest average head grade, what's your margin on that, right? Because what kills you at a low strip is not your mining. It's not underground, thankfully, so your cost per ton of your mining is fine. It's just the processing, right? So we thought, look, this is highly heterogeneous material here. Unlike Tom and Jason, you know, which are classic SEDEX deposits, very finely laminated, not really amenable to sorting at all. Boundary Zone is very heterogeneous. It's these disseminated fracture fill veinlets and veins of sphalerite, pyrite, and with siderite alteration, and it's like very heterogeneous. Not just from sort of this 10 meters to the next 10 meters, or even this meter to the next meter, but sometimes within a meter it's like something, nothing, nothing, something, something, nothing, right? So the question was, can I tease out those somethings and get rid of the nothings? Because to your eyeball, you can spot what's got it and what's not, right? So we did this prelim sorting test, and the initial results were extremely positive, like up to a 70% rejection of material. And so you're rejecting 70% of the material and only losing 15% of your zinc in the process, right? So that this is pretty great, you know, in terms of bringing your feed grade to the mill way down, and not losing a lot of zinc in the process. And that really got us like excited about Boundary Zone. So we went back up there this year to drill two holes on it. And you know, the old expression, better to be lucky than good. We got significantly better results in those 2 holes than we were expecting. And you know, this was a Teck, you know, previously Cominco became Teck, you know, project, and better than anything they had drilled. And I think better than anything they had suspicions was there. I do not think they would have given it to us at the price they did if they thought this was a likely outcome. So you know, the first hole was about 230 to 250 meters true width of 3.4% zinc. The second hole was about the same true width of 4.1% zinc. And what was killer about the second hole was the first 100 meters of true thickness was just under 8% zinc. And this is right from surface. This is not like starting at 200 meters. This is like starting at 6 meters. Basically, you're scraping off the overburden, and boom, there's your mineralized material. You know, I joked to someone that your pre-strip was going to be, you know, a handful of trees and some moss, right? So that we have this great potential there. And you know, within that, there was a 6 meter true thickness package we hit that was 40% zinc. So you know, that is over 2/3 sphalerite for 6 straight meters of true thickness, right? I mean, that's pretty stellar. So you know, we've got a sense now that there are these high grade shoots there. We're not yet 100% sure what's controlling those, and what how they're going to be located throughout the boundary zone. But that they exist as added gravy to boundary zone that perhaps was not apparent before. So next year is really probably going to be the year of boundary for us. Like let's get a maiden resource in this thing. Let's do some broad drilling to size it. Let's do some tight drilling where we hit the high grade shoots to see what the controls on them are, and put something out. And I really think it's going to surprise people. The level of metal endowment there.
So let's give investors a glimpse into the future here. Let's talk about year end, heading into the future, and your thoughts on zinc.
Yeah, for a company like Fireweed, being a PEA stage project that's maintains this tremendous exploration upside, but is still heading towards maturity. The question is, well, what's my long-term prospect for zinc? You can listen to the noise of trade wars or not trade wars, or this mine's shutting down, this mine's starting up, the price is going up and down. But what's your long-term sense? And a friend of mine said it well yesterday, that the pipeline for zinc projects, from about 4 to 5 years out, is completely garbage, right? There's just nothing out there. And so a project like ours, which is definitively not garbage, starts to look really attractive to people who are going to try to replace those pounds of zinc production. And so, for us, it's about, okay, now, we got a mining bear market, but we're still able to deliver value. We're still able to get this thing forward. And I think what it means for, an investor is you take a look at it and you say, look, this thing is trading at pennies on the fair dollar for fair value. This is not going to be a 3 to 6 month re-rate necessarily. This could be a 12 to 18 to 24 month re-rate. But it's a pretty good bet. All junior mining is speculation, but when you've got a proven resource and early stage economics, and you've got this blue sky, and you've got, we're valued at about 15% of the total amount of money that's been spent on the project, right? So, when you've got that sort of discount, that's, in terms of bets, that's one of your better bets, right? I don't like to describe anything in junior mining as a safe bet, because nothing in junior mining is a safe bet, right? But it's like, it feels like your risk is lower, and yet because the valuation has been punished so mercilessly, your actual reward is really high, because you could have a huge swing in value as it returns to fair value.
Certainly appreciate that update from Brandon Macdonald, CEO of Fireweed Zinc, FWZ, on the venture. I then caught up with Allan Barry from the Allan Barry Reports, and here was his take on Fireweed's news.
Yeah, this one really caught my attention with their recent news. I think it was probably the best news that they've had. I'm a real exploration guy, and they've kind of advanced some of the zones on the property, but lately they've been also trying to expand into new zones. And they hit this real thick intersection of really nice grade zinc right at the surface. So this is an open pit target. It's big, it's high grade for an open pit target. And I've been looking around lately, Rob, because I'm getting bullish on zinc. I don't think the global economy concerns are as bad as people think. I look at the shipping rates and stuff like that for that indicator, and the story on zinc is actually pretty good. And you look at the inventories of zinc at the London Metal Exchange, and it's a very bullish story. But the problem is finding good zinc stories is very difficult. The guys at Fireweed Zinc have an exceptional exploration and development story for zinc. And like I said, I think they just hit their best results to date.
That's today's brief. If you're a fan of the broadcast and the information, please subscribe to the channel, like and share the show. Anything you think I missed, info@stockpulse.com. Back next week with more interviews. Try to get you ahead in your portfolio and get you a little more information.